Welcome, Rob. Welcome to my show.
Hi and hello watch fans, and welcome to another edition of the Real Time Show. Today we are live on location at Esrange with two of the titans of watchmaking, Jupp, Philipp and Andreas Bentele. What's your middle name, Andreas?
Carabinian.
Woof, what a name, what a name. All right guys, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me and thanks for providing the beer. That's very much appreciated and a novelty for the show. What are we doing here?
We will shoot 13 watches up to space.
Of course we will, yeah.
Yes. Well, we do not know on what day, we do not know at what time, but it will happen.
We hope it will happen, we hope. So,
no, everything is prepared. So we do testing in space.
Yes. Okay, so today is Monday, the 21st of November, 2022. It's 3:30 in the afternoon. Don't think too badly of us for already having opened a beer because the sun has long since set and it's pitch black outside. Launch was scheduled for tomorrow morning at, 7 a.m. was it, or 8:30?
8:30, yeah.
The hot countdown started 6 hours beforehand.
Okay, but we've had to postpone it because of, well, we're not entirely sure exactly what fault was found on the rocket or what problem there was with one of the experiments or another one of the experiments, but whatever it was, we now definitely have to wait at least one more day, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that we can launch on Wednesday, because otherwise
there will be a problem. There's coming a weather front with snow. And this means that no rocket can be launched. So Wednesday is the last day, and then we don't know if it's 1, 2, 3 weeks. Nobody knows.
And this is quite, I wouldn't say devastating yet, but potentially devastating because, of course, you've worked on this project for how many years now? 3 years, is it? To bring
3
to life?
years. 3 years ago, we've been the first time here, have the first contact with SSC, and when we started planning this project.
So tell us exactly how Fortis came to be involved with the Swedish Space Corporation. I have to say that very slowly because otherwise I sound like Sean Connery. I can't say Swedish and space next to each other.
It's hard too.
Yeah, impossible.
Well, I guess there was always this idea of bringing Fortis back into space. I think that's first and foremost the most important thing.
Because you have a long history.
We have a bloody long history in space. Actually started back in the 60s with the famous Spacematic and the Gemini program at NASA. But then there was a bit of quietness alongside, and then back in the late 80s, early 90s, we started to collaborate with the Russian Roscosmos agency. And since ever then, we've been kind of the official equipment on board the first Mir and then ISS. And back in 2014, we kind of stopped all of the collaborations with the Russians because it's been quite annoying as well. The contact was very difficult. The communication, there was a lack of communication. You know, they kind of handed the whole Roscosmos agency, made it a governmental thing. So you have to inquire through several channels, and you obviously can only do this in a Russian language. And, you know, and then all these, there's obviously also the politics play a big part of the role here. You cannot just go there anymore. You cannot just do things or develop things. So yeah, that's why we said, okay, we have a good history in space, but now it's time for the future.
Okay. And the process of getting in touch with these guys was a little bit almost fatalistic from what I understand it. So Jupp, you were telling me yesterday that you spotted something at Fortis's HQ in Grenchen.
Yeah, we have you have been to Grenchen, so we have the stairs where it's a lot of pictures from the old times, and there I spotted an old picture of a rocket launch. There have been already watches inside, and I always was wondering where has this launch has been, because there was nobody, and this was just a rocket with watches inside. So and I told Andreas, hey, we have to do this again.
Yeah,
we have to find out where has this been, and then we have also an appointment at the DLR in Germany. Because there was also a good relationship in the past with the DLR, and we asked if we can restart our relationship, and they said, okay, it's a state-organized organization, it's not allowed to work with private companies, but he told me then, if you want to do testing, go to the SSC, to Sweden, because Fortis has already done it before 20 years.
Knew the history.
He knows the history. He knew about this rocket launch from this photography I saw at Grenchen.
He actually organized it at that time.
Yeah, I think he was also an organizer.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then he just gave us, okay, the information, go to the SSC, but I think we did not call the SSC. It was just in our mind, okay, let's have it one time. And then you had a call.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting because at a certain point in time, I just got a call. Hi, this is Stefan from the Swedish Space Corporation. I was like, by accident, you know, I was like,
Yeah.
nice to talk to you. It was like, he told me later, yeah, he was calling the factory and then he came out at the reception and Brenda.
Brenda. Not Brenda. Amazing Brenda. We love Brenda.
Everybody loves Brenda. Said, okay, yeah, I forward you to the marketing dude. So yeah, that's where we're doing.
And that's your official job title, is it, Andreas?
That's my official astronaut and, you know. No, but that was very funny because he was like calling me and telling me we got to know each other, and it was like that's been way before Corona, and he was telling me that his father used to be the head of service après-vente for Rolex in Germany, and he's very much into watches, and he is a space engineer. And I was like, nice. Let's have a chat about how to proceed here.
I mean, this is a bizarre level of symmetry.
Faith.
I mean, yes, yeah. Fate and the planets quite aptly aligning perfectly for Fortis to begin its mission back into space. And that was, like you say, what, 3 years ago before Corona, maybe even more, three and a half.
Maybe even 3.5, something like that, yeah.
And we first came, well, when did you first come to Esrange? When was that, 2020?
Basically 2019, I guess.
Yeah, it should be 2019 because it was before Corona.
Yeah.
And 2018 I bought the company, then we had the first contact, and it was already autumn, and it was really, really cold already.
I guess third quarter of 2019.
Okay. And you've been now, is this your fourth visit here? Did you go in 2020
That's
or
the
not?
third visit. Yeah, we did on the first we just kind of get to know each other, see the site, see what they're doing. They were driving us around Radar Hill and all of that to show what they're doing here. And funny enough, that rocket where we've been on like 20 years ago was called Maxus, and you see the pictures with a big Fortis logo on it and stuff.
Cool.
There's also one in Kiruna.
Yeah, exactly.
In the middle of the town, they have this Maxus.
This is a
rocket.
Maxus rocket, yeah. So yeah.
So for anyone that doesn't know exactly where we are, because I don't expect many people will know where Esrange is, nor would they know where Kiruna is, but you can find that easily on a map. Kiruna is a very northernly mining town, 140 kilometers or so north of the Arctic Circle. It has an airport, which is the airport that we fly to, and then we drive for about 40 minutes north to Esrange. So we really are in the middle of nowhere. It was a site chosen, I believe, because the Aurora Borealis is very commonly seen around here, and scientists that set up this institution wanted to study them more closely. But also it has the advantage of having very little around it. So when these rockets go up, or any kind of flight device like a balloon, as we'll talk about in a moment, when they go up, they obviously have to come down somewhere, and we don't want them to crash down onto a civilization. So crashing down onto trees or Arctic tundra is preferable, I would guess. So last year...
There's bunkers out there.
There are, yeah, I've heard about this, yeah. So if a hunter is out,
because
for example...
Because there's Sami still living in that area, kind of doing their reindeer stuff.
So they're the indigenous population of this region.
Indigenous people are the Sami, yeah, and they do inherited the law of being the only ones herding reindeers.
Okay.
So they are in this area, and there's a huge, alarm sign when they fire rockets, and all of these people needs to go into the bunkers that are kind of all around the place here. It's an area of, I think, 256 square kilometers. So it's huge.
Yeah, the drop zone is massive, right? And it even extends into Finland. And
Yeah, they have agreements with him. Let's call it like that.
Just as well.
If the Earth would turn longer, you end up in Russia. That's
yeah. We talked about that at length when we knew this rocket launch was planned, and as we all know, what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, that could have caused some issues. But I think it's unlikely that we're going to accidentally drop our rocket onto Russia because it's not in the air for very long, is it?
No, it has I guess 15, 20 minutes.
It's 15 minutes.
Yeah, tops, right? Yeah,
50 minutes. I guess roughly the farthest distance it can go is like 80 kilometers.
Okay, and that's because of the rotation of the Earth as the rocket's up in the air.
The rotation of the Earth is kind of not really playing a big role this time.
So it's more about the apogee? Is that what you call
the apogee is like the highest point, basically. Like a parabolic flight.
Yeah.
And the apogee is at 260 kilometers. So halfway ISS, basically.
I think the launch is 1.5 minutes, maybe, and then you're
the launch 6 seconds, and you don't
6 seconds, but they need 1.5 minutes to read the apogee.
Okay.
And then they have 6 minutes free floating.
Yeah, that's the zero
gravity, and then they come back.
Amazing. So it's really interesting. We'll talk about the other experiments on board the rocket more at length and why they might find microgravity or zero gravity for a short period of time useful. It's less useful for the tests that Fortis is doing, but interesting nonetheless. But before we got to this point, you were up here last year, around the same time, a couple of weeks earlier, I think, and you did preliminary testing of movements in extreme environments by launching a stratospheric balloon, unsurprisingly, into the stratosphere, about 30 kilometers up, I believe. And mounted on that balloon were 13 movements.
Yeah, in a special case. We did a special case with a special test dial. And we tested the new Werk 17, which we've kind of done with La Juppere. Kind of did a new bridge to make it even more robust, testing some different lubrication and oils. But you know more about this, the movement stuff.
Yeah, the movement. At the end, this was the development to have our new space movement. This is the movement which we will use in all the space watches.
So unlike a very famous space watch, we'll name it by name because this is a real-time show and we don't like to skirt issues, the Omega Speedmaster is obviously known as the space watch because it was the first watch worn on the moon by Buzz Aldrin when he and Neil Armstrong took the first steps on our solo satellite. It's a bit embarrassing that Neil Armstrong left his Speedmaster in the lunar module.
I heard about the story.
Why?
Well, I was an Omega watchmaker.
So you know why,
Because it was broken.
Luckily enough, I'm not old enough to have been responsible for servicing that one. But
That was a problem with the spring bar, I think.
It is a spring bar.
Yeah, and you should not use spring bars in space. To be honest, this is the worst thing you can do.
That's an interesting
He just lost the strap, basically.
Yeah.
So he couldn't wear
It's not even the movement of the glass or the case, it's just because of the spring bar.
Well, how interesting. So, the funny thing is, the Omega Speedmaster didn't actually pass all of the tests that NASA laid out for applying watches, which when they were searching for a special moon watch. They passed more than anyone else, but they still failed a few.
Sure.
And the reason for that was likely because the Omega Speedmaster was never designed for space. It was a racing chronograph.
It was a racing watch, yes.
Yeah, and it still is, but it just so happened to be the best of a pretty hopeless bunch because, let's face it, nobody knew what kind of things they'd be encountering at that point. But it has this reputation, and it's a very valid reputation in terms of its historical significance. And
no doubt about
that. It's a beautiful story, and with its little quirks, as the one we've just described. But you want to make clear that a watch designed for space should be tested in space, because this isn't just fun, and it isn't just exciting. It's necessary.
If you want to give a warranty to the clients and guarantee that all Fortis watches are space-proofed, you can wear all Fortis watches in space. You cannot just tell it. You have to know. You have to practice it.
Yeah. And there are long-term benefits as well to not just horology, but also deep space exploration, because you have to be able to rely on the tools around you if the digital counterparts that we would likely install as standard in a spacecraft these days failed. Having the mechanical backup, just like a diver, as you said today, is still very advisable, and that's what you're aiming to achieve, right?
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, back in the 60s, the requirements and standards were not given like they are today. So if you build a rocket today, the requirements for the rocket are beyond, your imagination. I mean, you can see that here on the ground.
We're finding it out
We
in
cancel
real
the
time.
countdown, we do something else, we repair, we need to fix this and that. I mean, and so does the watch.
Yeah.
So, or everything you take to space. You cannot just take the moon watch just for it has been the moon watch to space. So I think the future space operations such as SpaceX or Mars explorations or whatever it is, they will very much take care of what they are taking on board. Because if it fails, if you lose it, or if there is, something flying around in your spaceship, you don't want that, No. So I think to be ready for that particular day when Elon rings that bell.
Well, I'm sure he will. I'm sure he will. We have seen firsthand, in real time, exactly how stringent the tests that Esrange put all of their rockets through are, because we have 12 experiments on this rocket right now, okay, from all different fields of science, engineering, and exploration. Fortis has a small compartment with all 13 watch heads mounted on, I guess it's an enormous custom-made winder, right? So they're spinning around.
I think it's the most beautiful winder you have ever seen. Huh?
Yeah, it really is fantastic.
It's a space winder.
Yeah,
It's gonna look fantastic because you have a single camera. That scares me, actually. The fact it's a single camera scares me because, if there's one thing it could go wrong.
yeah, that's a problem. But this was not. It was not possible to have a camera. The problem is the focus of the camera. Yeah. So you cannot install the focus right on all 13 watches. You have to focus just on one.
And you have quite limited space within the compartment as well.
Yeah, and there's not enough space inside. And of course, the problem is with the focus. Also, you have to think. Also, because it's getting you have this vibration, which disturbs the focus, and of course you have vacuum. So they have to reduce the focus now here a little bit back, because then in vacuum it's a sharp picture.
So it's not sharp here on the ground.
Right, so we'll only see it come into focus when it actually hits.
When it hits zero gravity, it starts to be sharp.
And something else.
It's just a small thing, but this is what you have to.
That's why we love
to
these
think
engineers.
about it.
Because they think about that. We don't have a clue about that, but they know what's happening there.
Yeah,
so they can kind of say, okay, you need to build it like that, or we build it better.
Yeah.
But do you know why we have a winder installed in the inside there?
Why?
Because we had to install the watches. We have already installed it 4 weeks ago in Stockholm.
Okay.
But you only have 60-hour power reserve.
So it's been spinning ever since.
Yeah. Well, the watches are inside the rocket since 4 weeks, but you have to wind it up.
Oh, of course. Okay,
That's the only reason. It doesn't for the tests. The winder makes absolutely no sense. It's only to keep them ongoing.
I mean, there's so many things to think about when you approach a project like this, and it proves that last year's preliminary testing with the balloon was absolutely necessary, because in that test, you actually checked out which oil would work best between a standard synthetic oil or an Arctic oil. Now, here on Earth, if you're spending
Pretty obvious.
most of your time outside of the Arctic, then pretty obvious. If you're spending time in the Arctic, also pretty obvious. But we weren't entirely sure what kind of difference the space atmosphere would make to the normal oil. And as it turned out, there wasn't a huge amount of difference at all, was there? So you decided to go with that, which we wouldn't have known if it hadn't been tested last year. And that was an exciting experiment in itself, of course, because that balloon went up and was in the air for about 20 minutes, I guess.
No, 3 hours.
2 hours.
I think the whole trip was 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, you must imagine. I mean, the balloon had its highest altitude after, I think, 60, 70 minutes.
Okay.
It takes them back 30 minutes, although it's just falling. And then it's been lying around in Finland for another hour.
Yeah, I got confused because we had to fly out there on helicopters looking for the thing, and that was probably about 20 minutes or 30 minutes in a helicopter.
45.
Jeez, what was wrong with my timekeeping? Oh, you know the bill. All right, it was time. All right, okay.
Just take the minutes and multiply it by 20.
Well, time flies when you're having fun, all right? I was sitting in the back. Oh,
but at least
that's a good sign.
when we flew out to Finland, you could use your GMT bezel.
That was amazing, right? Because obviously, for anyone that doesn't travel to Scandinavia too often, Finland is an hour ahead of Sweden, despite the fact they share a long land border. And as we flew over in a helicopter, we got to pop our time forward slightly, which was exciting because we're a bunch of watch nerds, obviously, so it's exciting for us. But yeah, okay, right. My memory of that event is completely skewed because I must have been having such a good time in the back of that helicopter. I thought it only lasted about 20 minutes.
But
okay.
you will remember your whole life, huh?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it was the first time I'd ever been on a helicopter, and what a reason to get on a helicopter.
It's the best ever.
And we were searching for this payload. We had a tracking device in it, so we knew roughly where it was, but we weren't entirely sure. And as it turned out, it landed on top of a fucking massive tree, which wasn't ideal.
Not ideal, but it made a nice fire in the evening.
Yeah. Now, for anybody that's worried about us like destroying the Finnish forests in the name of science, we did have a specially trained and legally permitted member of the crew who could cut down that tree, and all the wood was used for good use. So,
and the good news is, for every tree they need to cut down, they plant 2 new.
Okay, so we actually did a good thing for the environment, ultimately. Okay, great. Okay, so those were the preliminary tests, and that enabled you to set up the parameters of this year's testing. And one of the biggest things is going to be the vibrations that the watchers experience during takeoff. And we've spoken also about the landing, but because the rocket is coming down with a parachute, although it is quite an impact.
It is still an impact.
It is 35 kmh.
It's like
hit on the ground. Yeah. So for me, this is a big hit. They told me, no, this is really smooth.
The scientists don't seem worried, do they?
Yeah, but the problem is, usually they do have more snow. So you can see climate change and stuff also up here. Mm-hmm. But we have like maybe 20 centimeters of snow up in the wild. But usually they have like 2.5 meters at that time.
Right, so that cushions the fall.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, 35 kilometers per hour. I mean, imagine driving against a wall with that speed.
Yeah.
That's kind of...
This will be a big hit.
Now,
it's a hit.
Luckily enough, Fortis is not in the nose cone. In fact, I believe
the nose cone burns away. We all signed it, and it's getting stardust.
Oh, great. Okay. Is it made from PEEK, that nose cone?
The cone is made from PEEK, and then they have a cork.
The top cone is made from PEEK, so very durable, and
I'd love to see a PEEK dial Stratoliner.
Yeah, we were talking about things.
Okay.
And then don't go too far in the future.
All right. We're just talking about traveling to Mars, but don't go that far. So, okay, Fortis's payload is somewhere towards the bottom of the rocket, actually, so that probably is better than it being closer to the top.
Not actually, because the parachute is in the nose cone.
Oh, you're kidding me. So you're going to hit the ground
your ass on the floor. So yeah, you get the first hit.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, at least it'll be thoroughly tested. Now, you have done some vibration testing already, right? In Sweden also, with the watches. So what was that like? Was that what you expected?
The whole rocket has to be tested before launch, and they do vibration tests with the whole rocket. And of course, the watches was inside, and we had the camera on, and we showed you already the movie. You see what's happening.
Quite extreme.
It's extreme.
It's awesome.
Yeah, they can like trigger from 0 to 2000 hertz.
Good grief.
But not only like vertical, and they can also do horizontal vibrations. Because the rocket, once it's launched, it starts turning.
Yeah, it's spinning.
Spinning, yeah. And there's a lot of... I mean, you're actually sitting on 2 tons of fuel that you burn.
Yeah.
What kind of fuel do they? Do not have a standard fuel.
No,
they have
they call it Festbrennstoff. I don't know what's the English word. It's like they have like
solid fuel.
It's solid fuel. It's made with magnesium and aluminium chloride that kind of stuff, and they melt it together, so it's hard. And
you don't want to smoke
it's activated,
right?
no, but oxygen and that kind of stuff. So I'm really not sure, but there's 2 engines on there. Each engine or motor weighs a ton. And after the first stage of burning is 6 seconds. So the rocket goes up, and after 6 seconds, the first stage is kind of drawn apart, and you can hear that motor re-entering the atmosphere. It's like, boom.
Woof. Oh God, I hope it goes straight.
And the other parts then later, dum.
Yeah. Pure science.
But I think You should. There's no need to explain. You can imagine. You have this launch with this extremely power. You have this vertical, horizontal vibration, and you have this up to 13 G because of the spinning of the rocket. And this is just crazy. I mean, you will never have it in your real lifetime.
So the combination of forces that kind of get into that watch are ludicrous.
Yeah.
And the goal is that the watches will still be running and won't have lost.
Of course, because
significant
after
time.
the first test in Stockholm, I think we lost just 4 seconds around about it.
And
that's quite good.
This was a test where the testing facility expected any screw not glued into the movement to fall out.
We have been a little bit afraid because
nervous.
they told us when we mounted the watches, and then the engineer started mounting the whole rocket, and then he glued all the screws, and then we asked, why do you do that? And he said, if a screw is not glued on a rocket, it will fall out. And I said, okay, do you know that we do not use glue for our watches?
So the 4 million screws in our watch movements are not glued.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's test it. But the first test all survived. Also our screw pin. This is all just a small part. We always just talk about the watch. But if you told us a story about Armstrong and this is,
and the spring bar.
And the spring bar, but our watches are screwed. So we have also to test our screw pin for all this vibration, these forces. And the first test has been all good.
Yeah. Your watches also use sapphire crystals, don't they? Because there's this
the best sapphire crystal in the world.
The best sapphire crystal in the world. Well, how do you quantify that? How's it the best?
Because I know that.
Well, you know that, but tell me why I should know that.
I mean, it's extra thick. I mean, our watches are robust and, made forever.
Tool watches redefined.
Tool watch redefined. We can't do any kind of thin glass. It's, I think, 2.5 millimeters. On a Marine Master, even more.
It depends on the watch and of course the water resistant, but
super thick.
But you have to imagine we can do tests in Grenchen up to 125 bar, so that's 1,250 meters. We can do a water proofness test, and the Stratoliner. We give a guarantee for 200 meters. But then I told my guys, hey, go to the extreme. Let the watch explode. It goes up, and then it was, I think, 102 bars, so over 1,000 meters. Then the case was destroyed. So you see what our sapphire.
Good grief! And I mean, this is a watch that has a sapphire case back as well, right? It has an open case back, sapphire on the front,
sapphire on the back.
Wow!
Double coated on both sides, so that you get crazy good legibility.
Oh yeah, they always are like superb to read. Fortis watches, I think.
And at the end, there's always a quality difference. There's glass and there's glass.
Yeah. Okay, very interesting. I mean, the thing that stands out about the use of sapphire is, of course, the fact that the Speedmaster used perspex or hesselite in those days because they claimed that it was like it would scratch or bend but not break under the duress of space dust.
The reason of that is, or the answer to this was like, if you have glass, at that time, they don't have sapphires.
Right.
So they had regular mineral glasses.
Which is no good.
Which is not good. So if it breaks, you have glass floating around on a space station, and it's something you really don't want to have.
Yeah.
So they said, okay, let's do hesselite, and it scratches maybe, but it will be fine. It won't break.
Yeah.
So you don't have parts kind of floating around.
But Fortis has always used sapphire in its space watches, and the Cosmonaut never had any problems.
Yes, of course, the Cosmonaut has been used for over 20 years up in space, and there was never a problem with the sapphire glass. So for me, with this plastic glass, it's just a mythos or an old rule which has never been changed.
It's been overhauled. I mean, at that time where there was no sapphire, I mean, why not use hesselite?
Yeah, I suppose it was the best option.
For the purpose of homage, of what you want to call it, yes. Please feel free to buy hesselite. You won't be happy too long, I guess.
So
Here on Earth.
Yeah, okay, up in space, no problem. So you're setting out the parameters of what will be, I guess, a testing process that will you make it available to other companies if they want to test their watches for Mars travel or something along those lines? I mean, will you establish like an actual testing procedure like COSC or METAS or something along those lines?
No, what we on a long-term base, what we want to achieve is that we kind of take all the data, take all the experience, and build a requirement catalog.
Yeah.
And then also out of this requirement catalog, together with the SSC, build machines and testing machines that we can use in a lab in Grenchen. So we don't need to shoot a rocket all the time.
The problem is you cannot shoot a rocket every 2 weeks.
No, it's not sustainable in any way.
But you want to do developments for the future, so you need the machines in Grenchen to do it every day and have your own laboratory. And this is the next step after this rocket flight. We start developing these testing machines.
Okay, so you need the real life space-based testing to establish what you need to ask of machines so you can synthesize those.
Because the machines are not there.
No, of course not. No.
It's just not there. So yes, of course, afterwards you can have kind of a certificate or whatever. Yes, it's a space-proven watch. But not sure if this is a business, actually.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe we'll see what happens.
I guess there's not too many companies wanting to go through that process.
No, but there are a great many testing certificates that one can apply for these days that brands obviously use to push their watches as extremely good quality.
For me, for example, the chronometer, the COSC is a pure marketing thing. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they test the movement in their labs and you bring it back. You're actually kind of rebuilding it, putting it into a watch. And there's so many things can go wrong.
I guarantee that happens. Yeah, I've destroyed many a COSC movement.
So you get a COSC movement maybe, but once you build it, then they lie around for half a year or a year, whatever, when they need it.
And what they do not test is they test the movement. The COSC, I like COSC, but there's some mistakes in the procedure. Yeah. And for me, what they completely forget is about, hey, you are also moving with this watch. Yeah, they just take it in the drawer and just keep it there. But this is not the real life. So that's why we are working on our own performance standards, because at the end we have performance. You do sport. You work the whole. You hit maybe the door.
You go to space.
You go to space. What else?
Things like that. Yeah.
And that is what is also have to be included in these tests for me.
So that's a real contribution to horology, and something that anybody that hasn't encountered the Fortis brand before should use as a reason to seek you out and find out more about you. Now let's talk a little bit about the watches themselves. We talked a lot about the tests, but people like to wear nice looking things, and I can say for sure that the new Stratoliner, which is the poster child for this experimental phase, is rather attractive. Oh, okay. Okay, let's talk about the core one first, and then we'll talk about the special edition that is actually going to space and being brought to market very soon.
Yeah, but it's...
Okay,
Don't be careful.
Don't be careful.
So, Andreas, would you describe the dial to our listeners?
It's the most simple, complicated dial ever made.
That's nice.
Yeah. So
vague and ambiguous, but nice. Poetic. That's for sure.
But I mean, at the end of the day, what we want to do is like always a tool watch, but we want to redefine it. So we want to have a function, but we also want to have design. We want to have luxury. We want to have this longevity and all these aspects of a high quality Swiss-made watch. And at that point, you know, the dial is looks simple, but at the end of the day is basically 5 dials. Mm-hmm. Because as you can see, for example, the counter dials are on the same level of like the base dial. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever seen a watch having that. Because speaking of the moon watch, you know, the counter dials kind of are subtle to the...
Slightly recessed, yeah.
Yeah, slightly recessed to the main dial. That's because of you can move the counting hands and the small second hand a bit lower. Mm-hmm. So minutes and hours. I don't need to tell you this, yeah?
You can tell the listeners. You can tell the listeners.
So our minute hand can move freely above them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So But we wanted to have this super flat design, and therefore we needed to cut the dial basically in half.
Oh, to make it thin enough so that you have the
Thin
hand
enough.
clearance.
Yeah, and then you need to kind of, so you cannot engrave anymore.
I see.
But then you need separate subdials that you plug in from the back basically and melt it together.
Oh, wow.
And same with the outer ring and so forth. And to keep also the luminous parts here in on the same level, you need to kind of do cutouts again to fill it with superluminova so it glows on the same level of light like the hands. Yeah.
Lume homogeny, that's what I call it. Yeah, it's my own little term for it. I'm trying to spread it around the industry. But it's very interesting. So the lume you're speaking about on the dial is arranged in a very aesthetically pleasing pattern. And unlike anything I've ever seen before, you've got a lume track running from 12 to 6 on the main dial. And again, from 30 to 15 on the minute counter subdial at 12 o'clock. So you've got this beautiful symmetry in this, a symmetrical, asymmetrical dial. So the left-hand side of the dial is completely devoid of lume, and it's just this beautiful particulated white surface on the core model. There is a dark grey model and a light grey model as well with contrast subdials. And on the back, we can see through the sapphire glass to the Vexibzine movement again, which, as you said, has been modified with this new plate to make it more robust. And is it coated with?
It's kind of rhodonized.
Dark. Yeah, it's beautiful.
We call it smoked.
The glass is smoked sapphire again. You know.
And there's a little window directly above the column wheel, right? So you can see that even more clearly. It's beautiful.
That's an homage to the spaceships, like the spaceship windows. You can see into your space.
Oh, lovely. Very nice.
Yeah, it's been designed for the space tourists of the future.
Okay, so tell us about that.
It's based, we're not allowed to say that very loudly, but it's based on the
future of the future space tourists, because we're not allowed to tell any brand names.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, and their kind of space travel works like it takes you 1.5 hours to go up to 17 kilometers. It's a mothership and a spaceship mounted beneath the mothership. And at that altitude, mothership drops the rocket ignites, and it takes them 90 seconds to go up into space, basically. Then you have like 10 to 15 minutes of zero gravity up there. You can enjoy this. If you're still looking on your watch at that time, you're a fucking idiot.
So the whole journey is about all these 3 steps.
Okay.
And this is what this dial is made for. So this is, the Lumino is not just the design, it's the function of this watch. The whole watch is just about this superluminova. Because this is a way how he measures his time, these 3 steps up to space.
So in our previous chat that we had with David Braden from A Blog to Watch, we also mentioned how when a watch's form does directly follow its function and is informed by that, it looks comfortable on the wrist immediately. You don't need to be told why this works. It's very jarring when you first see the Stratoliner because it's unusually sparse in some ways, but its elements that give it its character are so well executed. I think it has to be ranked as one of the best releases in recent memory. And the special edition version that you have on your wrist, Jupp, is even more special.
Yeah, it is.
It's quite remarkable. So tell us what's different about this version.
The different is that we normally have in the bezel and then on the case back we have this rubber inlay.
Okay, a black rubber inlay.
Black rubber inlay, and here we did an 18K massive gold ring.
Wow.
Because it's a high exclusive watch.
And there's only going to be 13 of them.
And there will only be 13, so we said, okay, if you want to have a little bit more exclusivity, you should use gold. Because I love gold. I don't know what's your opinion about this material, but I love personal. I really love the gold color.
Yeah.
And we have the special developed gold superluminova.
Oh yeah.
And we have these golden hands. The hands are not from gold; they're just gold color.
Okay.
Because you should not produce hands out of gold. It's too too weak, too soft material.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially for the chronosecond.
Oh yeah,
And
of course.
if it's coming, if it's snapping back, it's too gold is not good for that. So this is the real special edition, only 13 pieces,
and it's going to be sold for €8,500 at this point.
Roundabout, yeah.
Roundabout, we think, because these pieces aren't just infused with this incredible gold ring on the front and back. They are also actually going to space. These are the pieces from
the 13.
My watch will not go to space.
Yours is staying on it.
Yeah, because at the end there are not only 13, there are 15 watches.
Yeah, to be honest.
One is in our museum. That's the number one.
Okay.
Then you have one on my wrist. That's the Jupp edition. And then you have 13 pieces. All
13 pieces.
When's the
engraved.
Andreas edition, by the way?
I don't know. And
Maybe next year.
They will be engraved 1 of 13. So these, if you got one of these watches, 1 of 13, the watches have been to space.
Wow, amazing! What an opportunity to own like a real piece of.
I mean, if you're into space,
expedition history,
man,
and it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer.
I mean, I have a Fortis Marine Master M40 on my wrist because that is my favourite Fortis thus far. At least it was until I saw the new M44, which we'll talk about in a moment. But I am very sorely tempted to try and get myself in amongst those 13 buyers because, good grief, it is something else.
And you have even more of that story because you're here.
Well, yeah, I know.
We've started this all together.
I mean, I joined at some point along the way, and it's been a real pleasure to be some small part of the adventure. And I can't take my eyes off it, for goodness sake. I wish you wouldn't wear it in front of me. To answer your question, I love gold. I love it. It's beautiful. And I think the weirdest thing about the Stratoliner is that it works so well on a watch that is so much geared towards a function. So it is a luxurious interpretation of the core model, but it doesn't feel in any way flighty or dressy even. It's just a beautiful chromatic choice, and the execution of that gold ring in the bezel is stunning. I spoke to Marcel, who I know had many sleepless nights about how to actually bring that idea to life, but his insomnia was definitely worthwhile because the result is something special. Yeah. I did touch upon the Marine Master M44, which may be my new favourite watch from Fortis. Yeah, the black dial, the black dial with the gold numerals and the gold hands.
Yeah,
it is
lovely, huh?
Incredible, absolutely incredible.
John Player Special Edition.
John Player Special. But the weirdest thing about this watch is it's 44mm and it does not wear like that at all. It's so comfortable on the wrist. I thought, stupidly now, having spent a little bit of time with this one, that 40mm would be perfect for me because I wear normally between 36 and 42mm, and 44 now sounds like a crazy size for me to go for. But having tried it on today, I've found it incredibly well balanced, supremely comfortable. And I had it on the rubber strap, which was just incredibly light and airy. But because of the buckle weight, just balancing it out perfectly, I can't really recommend it enough. What's your favourite watch in the Fortis collection, Andreas?
Actually, I do wear the Stratoliner right now, and I do wear it like basically on a daily basis. Because it's just the feeling of it being here and wearing it, being part of such a mission. It's kind of really something cool that kind of attaches to me. Then, yes, I do own a couple of more watches, obviously, but I've been to the Amadee Israel Mars mission.
Well, tell us a little bit about that.
I guess it's like last year we've been in the Negev desert of Israel, which is a huge crater, an erosion crater, and it's a perfect site to train for Mars. So there's this Austrian Space Forum who develop, or are one of only 4, I guess, in the world that are allowed to develop spacesuits for Mars.
Wow.
And they kind of try and test what's working, what's not working. They want to find the errors and failures and all of that to kind of not do it on Mars, but rather do them here. And then they get isolated for 4 weeks or 3 or 4 weeks in the desert, and they stay on their own. And we did a nice movie on this one as well. So that's coming in January, February or something.
And what platform is that going to be released upon?
YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah, we do some YouTube release on that.
You have quite a lot of YouTube videos up already, right?
Yeah, we're trying to do the things from a watch industry perspective a bit more unconventional.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to be like everybody else. You know, it's like we want to be a bit more the punk rockers amongst the watchmakers, but still on that quality level that you should expect from a $5,000 watch.
Yeah.
And I think the movements that we have are from Kenissi or La Joux-Perret. They're all like manufacture calibers. We're using recycled steel. We're having own developed gaskets out of FKM because they just last longer.
Yeah.
I think we're only one of two in the world who uses like a triple gasket system for the crown.
Okay.
Stuff like that. We're at least 200 meters water resistance.
For everything?
Everything. Yeah.
Wow. Even the Fliegers?
Yeah, even the Fliegers. I mean, imagine, you know, it's like you cannot take a shower with your watch. It's like ridiculous, you know.
Yeah.
If you want to be a tool watch, anytime, everywhere.
We want the people to make scratches into their watches because that's what their life looks like.
Yeah.
Make some scratches in there. And very important is something like, for example, for me, the clasp, you know.
God,
people find out about the clasp.
please.
First and foremost, most people, when they buy a watch, they don't think of clasp. But man, I can talk for ages about the clasp now.
Yeah, it can make or break a watch.
Yeah. I mean, I have older watches where we didn't have these slide clasp on the bracelet, and it's like I don't wear them anymore because the slide clasp with the micro adjustment is such a wonderful feature. Yes, it costs a lot of money, but it's worthwhile.
It's so good. It's so well done on yours. I mean, if you get it right, and you've got one advantage actually because your watches are tool watches and they are by their nature robust. You've got quite a bit of real estate to play with on the buckle without it looking out of place or imbalanced. And you've done a really nice job of making a very easy to use, quick adjustment extension piece. And to be honest, I've said ever since I started wearing the M40 that I was going to get a hook strap for it.
Yeah.
I never really considered the bracelet, but I think I might change my mind and get a bracelet for it.
Yeah, the bracelet is very comfortable.
Yeah, it is weirdly
because
comfortable.
As long as you can kind of broaden it or widen it and bring it back again.
You can do it in seconds.
In milliseconds, basically. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's cool. Yeah.
Is there anything that you can tell us about the future of Fortis's product lineup, or is it all confidential? Remember, this podcast is going to go live in the next couple of weeks.
But you can imagine, huh? Fortis is a space brand.
Yeah.
So we had now, first we started with this transformation time for the last years. We started with a Flieger because it's an iconic model from the 80s till today. Then we had the Marine Master, which is, nobody knows, but this is the oldest model still exists. It's 70 years old now. Yeah. Since 70 years we're producing the Marine Master.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I had no idea, and I'm wearing one.
Yeah, nobody knows.
Rights with Psycho. There's a signed document.
Yeah.
That we share the naming rights with Psycho because we get often the requests like, hey, Marine Master should be Psycho and stuff. Yes, okay.
Is that because the two names emerge differently in different territories at the same time, so you both have valid claim to them? Oh, how interesting. Oh, that is cool. It's good to know.
And after that, we brought for the Space Tourist, which what is completely new, nobody did before, the Stratoliner. And of course, we had, over the last 30 years, a professional model for professional astronauts. And of course, we imagined what will come for the future.
Okay. So.
And then there will be something to finish.
A little flourish was made in the air.
The eye dot on the...
Okay.
You know what the best is about the watches? That's the best feature. It's that the date wheel on a 13th turns Bellac through orange on every watch.
Gorgeous, yeah.
So once in a month, you get reminded that you bought the best watch in the world.
Why 13?
Lucky number.
The real story or the marketing story? No, whatever. No, when we did the first shoots for our first catalog, the photographer asked me, what kind of date do you want to have on your watch? Okay. And I never thought about this. And then we start discussing. And we said, okay, what should we use? Everybody used the same, I think.
Monday 23.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think then they use the 8 because it means luck in China.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
else? Okay. And then we started, think about it. And then there was somebody who told her, let's take Friday 13.
No, and yeah, the reason for the Friday 13.
Friday 13 was because on a Friday I signed the contract for Fortis and we have been 13 employees.
Oh,
With me together. So this was the first at the end. But at the end, somebody told us, hey, you cannot do that. You cannot.
The Japanese.
Yeah,
It's been the Japanese distributor telling me you cannot do this.
You cannot
Really?
you cannot do photos with Friday 13. And then the first reaction was, of course we can.
Oh yeah. I can imagine.
Now we do it for sure.
If you say no, I will do it.
Oh, talking about catalogues, there's one more thing I want to say before we wrap up the show, and that is your print media is absolutely stunning. And I know how expensive it is, and it turns my already greying hair even greyer and causes it to fall out, because there are so few brands that put that level of effort into producing something physical now. But I think that it does come across as a perfect ambassador for the brand, because that shows what kind of effort you put into every level of the watch and the communication thereof.
If you do something, we do it right. Don't do shit. It's just to save money.
That's a pretty good motto. Fortis, don't do shit.
Don't do shit. It is.
What is it?
Everything is the
Please
perfect.
don't crackle.
You are a brand at the end, and the product is the most important. So do everything in perfection.
Yeah.
Everything is completely perfect constructed and perfect designed, and
Best
then
materials.
Best materials. There were so many details well thought out in this watch, and of course the box has to be perfect, and of course the catalog has to be perfect, and the shots have to be perfect. Everything. Yeah. It's a kind of was heißt Lebenseinstellung oder?
It's kind of
it's our mentality.
it's your mentality. Either you do it or you don't. But if you do it, just do it fucking right.
So I'll tell you what we're going to do. You're going to lend me a couple of new watches. No, lend. Yeah.
Is that the kind of lend you need?
I'll sell them before you know what's happening. Lend them to me. What we'll do is we'll take some pictures of them and we'll put them out on Instagram, and we'll ask our audience to ask us what they want to know about your new releases. Sure. And then we'll do a product review show. And if you want to see these shots, if you want to stay up to date with the real-time show, you can find me on Instagram at RobNuds, RobNudds, or my co-host, who's absent today, Alon Ben Joseph, at Alon Ben Joseph, ALONBENJOSEPH. Damn it, yes, well done. This is all live as well. And if you'd like to send us a direct email, you can do so at rob@therealtime.show or alon@therealtime.show. Thanks, guys, for joining us up here in Kiruna, not Kiruna, wherever the hell we are in the middle of nowhere. It is time for us to go and work on these beers. Yeah, all right, thanks, chaps. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, man. You need more passion.
You need more passion.
If you want to be successful, you need to be fast, unique, and different.
Oh my God, Jean-Claude Beaver's running amok in Sweden. Drink your Heineken 3.5% shot.